Ever wonder how people deal with trauma? A story of one person's journey that becomes a revolution of love. The following words are directly from a previous student who has taken Introduction to Counseling, Holistic Psychology, and Transpersonal Psychology courses with me at Lesley University. Through the concepts explored in these courses, this student lets us into their journey of reflection and experience, fostering a deeper understanding of their internal world, as well as creating internal disarmament, leading to greater peace of mind. This video is another map of our consciousness that complements and works in tandem with the two most recent ones that focus on our mind chatter and the internal dialogue technique with guided imagery. Enjoy.
In reflecting on my past and current maps of consciousness, the work we have done in this class has helped me to see them in more of an organized way. It has also helped me have more compassion for all parts of myself and give them a chance to be heard. I know from experience that when you ignore them for so long, they do not go away. They may even start a war inside and consume you completely. They are here to help, and when you listen, change starts to happen. About 3 years ago, my mind chatter got so loud and overwhelming that circuits were blown. Things started sparking and catching on fire, and then all of a sudden, the entire system crashed. Then one of my narratives came to the control center and grew so big that I could no longer see or feel any separation between myself and this narrative. Her name is Sadness, and she was heavier than I knew possible. I was extremely depressed, and my toolbox was lacking the skills I needed to even understand what may be going on. I also became physically ill, and it was so uncomfortable to exist that I began reaching for quick band-aids, like weed, nicotine, social media, and anything that could distract myself from the state of feeling I was in. It was also the middle of the pandemic, so I was not going anywhere. I was taking online courses in my room, and the lack of connection was compounding everything else I was experiencing. While sadness had overtaken the control center in my brain, there were a few narratives that really needed me to say hello. One of them was my inner child narrative. It feels strange to call her a narrative because she's probably the most important one that I needed to deeply meet and care for in order to truly heal. She feels more like my truest self because at one point, she was. When I would imagine her, she was the most innocent, loving little toddler who wanted to give and receive unconditional love. At other times, I found her curled up in a ball in a corner, too afraid to move, crying. When I began to interact with this part of myself, I could tell she needed someone. I knew that it was supposed to somehow be me, but the idea that I could be so responsible as to take care of this child felt overwhelming and almost impossible. It was helpful to imagine some spiritual being caring for her instead. And even though I did not have much hope that I could ever become that person, I did. When I began to feel safe in my adult body and learned how to regulate my nervous system, I had the most profound meditations with this part of myself. I would see the little girl, and my adult self would hug her, take her hand and say, "Hey, why don't you come with me? You are right to feel afraid. This is a scary environment, and it's not your fault. I want to take you to play and care for you the way that you need to be cared for." This was such an emotional, healing experience, and I still do it sometimes. She often finds me during meditations and yoga classes, since I'm not the one to practice meditation on my own at this moment in time. The process of quieting my mind chatter enough to have my true, present adult self step in and take care of this inner child has made me feel like I can be the adult I always needed. One of my other narratives that I'm only beginning to meet is anger. Sadness would not give her any room because subconsciously I was so comfortable with sadness that I confused myself for her and vice versa. But anger had been needing me to listen for just about my entire life. I'm not sure when I would have met this narrative had my therapist not given me a gentle push in this direction. My therapist finally felt secondhand frustration with how stuck she could see I was. She could tell that what I was describing to her was unresolved, unfelt, and unprocessed anger that I was confused by and could not understand. One day, she said, "I know you are sad, and isn't there also a part of you that is angry about this?" At first, when she said it, I felt nervous because I thought, am I allowed to feel angry? That seems awfully unfamiliar and scary. But then, as we worked together to identify what anger felt like, and when it was trying to tell me something, I felt a lot of it. This poor narrative had been so buried and suffocated ever since I locked her away to keep myself safe. I was listening now, and she had a lot to scream about. This narrative was an essential part of learning how to truly take care of myself. My therapist taught me that when I feel angry, that is usually an indicator that a boundary is being crossed. This was revolutionary in my relationships with certain family members, and others, of course. I had never really known that I had any boundaries, and now I was moving into the how to set and maintain them realm, which I still am learning how to do. Martha is another one of my narratives I have been saying hello to recently. I am not sure where the name Martha came from, but it feels right. She looks like a frazzled woman who is running around panicking, and if you tell her to stop, she may freak out even more. Martha is only concerned with the needs of others. She believes that the only way to show love is by predicting and meeting the needs of loved ones, and if she fails to do so, she is afraid she might not survive. She cannot often hear my own needs because there is a loud noise that makes her confuse my needs for those of others. She thinks she is really good at helping, but to emotionally healthy individuals, she is actually super annoying. She doesn't want me to trust that other people can meet their own needs, and she wants to manage their feelings as well as their needs. Martha is codependent, and for many years, she made it almost impossible for me to even recognize that I have needs and that I am responsible for meeting them. An example of a Martha takeover is that during a time when I was going through a health crisis, I would be so concerned about what my partner was going to have for breakfast and what he was going to take to work for lunch that I would run around in the morning and do it all for him. He never asked me to, and he was definitely capable of doing this all on his own. Martha did not trust that he would be able to take care of himself if she did not step in. Making your partner food is not the issue here. It was the fact that I was unable to make myself breakfast, lunch, or dinner at the time because of how unwell I was, and that out of panic I would try to predict and take control of my adult partner's needs when I was unable to identify any of my own. I have been interacting with Martha in a new way recently. When I am around others and I notice she is trying to take control, I will say to her, "You will still be loved and safe if you experience your own feelings right now and do what you need to take care of yourself." My partner will even tell me again and again to take care of myself, but I am the only one who can talk directly to Martha and tell her to believe what my partner is saying and what I know to be true. Another narrative I have is the warrior. She is a new development who emerged after I began letting anger speak. She is the protector and boundary holder. She doesn't care to listen to guilt or shame about caring for myself. She is here to say no, to protect my peace, and to fiercely advocate for me to meet my truest needs. She is a muscular giant with fiery armor, and her strength is powerful and loving. In my experience with setting boundaries in my family, it is a disruption to a system that thrives on zero boundaries and self-sacrifice. My mother and her mother and her mother, and who knows how far back, were taught that the martyrdom is the only way. You must stay, you must serve, and you must obey. I am the first woman on my mother's side to reject abuse and choose to protect myself from it. It is a radical move that comes with a lot of guilt, shame, and grief. It is so painful for my grandmother and mother to not have the whole family to be together as it used to be. They do not understand why we cannot all get along and forgive. They do not understand why their kids cannot be strong enough and loving enough to open their door to all, including those who continue to abuse. For me, it is the strongest, most loving thing that I could do to hold my boundaries for as long as they serve me. I would never choose for my own mother and grandmother and father to suffer. When I was a child, I needed them to take me out of our burning home, and they were not able to. I now have to take myself out of it, and it is painful for everyone. I can hold the grief and the new life I've created at the same time. I can still have relationships with my family in ways that don't set me back and that do not make me sick. It is not ideal for the system, but I do it for my inner child, for my future children, for my ancestors, and for myself. The warrior is here to remind me that this path is right, and protecting my health, happiness, and peace is non-negotiable. The process of turning the internal battles into external context is one way I'm able to articulate what this process has been like for me. When I began having battles outside of myself rather than with myself, I was able to find peace. They are not usually battles, but to me, it can still feel like that. Saying no to something, for example, or saying yes to someone offering help. These are full-blown revolutions to me still. Setting a boundary with someone I love because their behavior continues to harm me, this is a battle. What I mean is that I would rather listen to my narratives and help them than ignore them, keep them fighting, and maintain a false sense of self on the outside in order to preserve a system that is slowly killing me. It feels like a revolution of love because it is. It is uncharted territory in my family, and I am so grateful to have the opportunity and the courage to face it. I honor my ancestors and family, for they are how I have arrived here, and I honor the fire in me that refuses to submit and burns to thrive.